And we're
All
live. Oh,
and we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome in. We are your five-hole taxi squad fantasy hockey podcast live in the morning of Saturday, February 24th, and we are here for the Start and Sit live Saturday show to get you started and off to the right foot on your Saturday matchups, where you may or may not know who to start. We are your hosts, as always, with Maddie K on a boys
maintenance day.
weekend or a maintenance day, whatever we want to call it. He's living the dream playing pond hockey somewhere in northern Ontario, Canada. But we are your hosts, as always, Craig, Jay, and Alan. What's going on, boys? Welcome back to the pod or the show. I guess it's a show because we're live this morning. But we're looking forward to getting into some listener start and sit questions for this Saturday and the matchups that start in an hour. So welcome in, everybody. What's going on, boys?
Yeah, excited to be here. Hopefully, someone gets something useful out of this morning.
Well,
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
we like to share our insights. Whether they help or not is another question. So, but thank you for joining us, for those that are here and those that have submitted questions on the Discord. But we'll do the housekeeping stuff and then we'll dive into your questions that we have in the Discord here. So welcome. I guess, yes, as I said, we are the Taxi Squad from the Five Hole Discord and the Five Hole Show. We are here today for the Start and Sit live show for Saturday, February 24th. We encourage you all to join the Discord, the Five Hole Discord channel, if you're not there. Please join us. That's 2,500 plus strong, like-minded fantasy hockey individuals talking all things fantasy hockey and life in general. You can follow us all on Twitter. You can see our handles just on the bottom left of each individual's here today's screen. And then please, as always, wherever you get your fine podcasts, although we don't share this one on the podcast channel, like, subscribe, and leave us 5 stars wherever you're listening, because that helps us get the show from our flagship stuff during the week out to new ears. So without further ado, Jay, let's start up those fares and let's get into these start and sit questions. We will start in the Discord in the Taxi Squad hotline channel, and then we will see what flows in live with us today, as well as we will touch on the Discord channel, the Start and Sit channel as well, for the people that have submitted some questions there. So, Alan, why don't you kick it off with the first one there, buddy?
Yeah, so it looks like from Hard Day's Night, Cats League, need to sit one D-man between Matheson, John Carlson, Brent Burns, Yossi, and Bouchard. Need shots on goal and power play points. Leaning Burns to sit, which, yeah, off the cuff, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think I agree with that as well. Where are the Habs? Are they at home? I think they're at home, right?
I would just, in general, I trust Matheson for complete category coverage.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think he's going to, that could be a very high scoring game with Monty and Dow's in net in New Jersey. So, yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's Burns. What say you, Jay? You love this topic, these power play one quarterbacks.
I think Tommy Huds said it best. Burns, and then pretty much.
Yeah, I don't
Just
think you
Burns.
ever sit Bouchard ever.
No.
So that guy's in your lineup, or Andy Yossi. I don't think you ever sit either. So, yeah. So there you go. Hard Day's Night consensus. Brent Burns is your sit. And Tommy Huds also commented on there as well as. So what do we got next?
Yep. From Q Barbecue, Bangers Cats sit 2 D-men. And a Brodeen, Ghost Bear, Larson, Myers, Roy, Taze, Truba, and Wallman.
Ooh.
For Bangers Cats, definitely think Ghost Bear. I don't even know if he's on Power Play 1 right now. And maybe
he's still getting sprinkled into Power Play 1, but I saw that in that Avs Wings game the other night that Wallman is also getting some sprinkling time on the power play with the big guys too. So,
see, because for the second one, I was kind of between Wallman and Myers.
and like, they're not, Wallman and Ghost Bear at home against St. Louis. Like, St. Louis isn't a high volume shooting team, so
you're not going to get blocks.
Yeah, there might not be even a lot of blocks from Wallman in this case. Oh man, what do you think, Jay? I got to think about this one for Q Barbecue.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like listeners, this is a lazy question for me, but in future it'd be good too if there was like an opponent, so to speak. Like I can immediately think of their own team, but I like their opponent would probably in a sit start would be very matchup dependent. Uh Without factoring in a matchup, my first thought is players like Brodeen, Larson, Myers, Waugh, like they're all fairly similar archetype they're fairly similar archetypes of players. Maybe even throw Wallman in there. So it really depends on the Brody, Larson Myers, Waugh, and Wallman, that archetype. Like those are very matchup dependent. I would even say Truba's probably in a similar boat. The thing is, Truba hits so much and blocks so much. So you want him simply for the volume. Taves is offensive upside. But like Waugh, Myers, Larson, Wallman, like well, maybe not the last part with Wallman possibly taking some time off of Cider, but most of those guys are D2 pairing. They don't get any power play time. Some even might be D3 pairing. So you'd be sitting one of those guys, right? So leaning, unless you are trying to catch up in categories and blocks, Waugh stands out to me. Myers is kind of in a similar boat where you are hoping the Canucks are shattering teams, and then they would basically not play Quinn Hughes and not play Hronik more often, and then Myers would get some more minutes. But aside from that,
Myers' ice time is a little soft. Like I think he's gotten like under 20 his last few games.
and it's just it's a game state setup on the ice. Like if the ice is too you want really tilted games toward the Canucks, and then hopefully Myers gets some more garbage time minutes. But like the Canucks are such a good team, they're not likely to be blown out 5-0 by the second period. And even if they were blown out 5-0 by the second period, they probably stand a chance of scoring 5 back if they play their top guns more. All of that game state doesn't push toward Tyler Myers getting ice time. So Myers is probably the more I'm talking out loud as an immediate sit, at least based on what we understand. And then Waugh is in, I would say, a similar setup where he, like, I don't think he just plays. Does LA just play? I'm gonna look at like the last box score.
Also, I feel like
LA's also at home to the Ducks, another low shooting volume team. So like I don't think you run both Red Wings defensemen.
No.
I think you sit in all honesty, I think you sit Ghost.
Unless you need points.
Yeah.
I almost wish he'd included that if he needed the bangers stats or if he needed the scoring.
Look,
because I think that changes the answer a little bit.
Maybe we'll reverse on this question then. I think we have consensus here. Trouba, Taves are your starts for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm gonna go out on a ledge here and say Larson is also a start because he fills hits and blocks, and he generally will play 23 plus minutes a night
with the random assist.
Yeah, with a random point thrown in there. And Seattle's I'm not going to say cooking right now, but they've been scoring a little bit over the last week or so versus the 2 weeks before that where they kind of went ice cold. I kind of agree with Jay and yourself. Like Myers' ice time is kind of limited because of Hronik and Hughes. So I think he's a sit. And then for me, it's between one of like Waugh. I don't know. He's kind of just there. He does a little bit kind of like Larson does, hits and blocks, but he's not going to sprinkle in as many points as Larson does. And then I still don't think you run out both wings guys. Brodeen's a sit for me. Myers a sit for me. And then it's up to Q Barbecue if he starts the 2 wings guys and then he sits like Myers and Brodeen in my eyes.
Really, Brodeen fills the bangers cats pretty well in his last few games. That's why I was thinking. I mean, if you need the bangers, I would say sit Ghost, and I think my other one is probably just both wings guys. But if you need the points, you need to start Ghost.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, it depends what he's chasing, right? If he's chasing and mentioning banger cats in the first 2 words immediately, then you're inclined to think that Ghost might not be much help there either.
He's got to make the call on the Red Wings quickly because they play at 12. So they play in 50 minutes, right?
Nice.
Right.
So that's
Well, what's
honestly, I'm
the-
not a big fan of playing the early games unless they're studs,
Hmm.
because then you really like you can play the later games and chase those categories, in your 7 o'clock and your 10 o'clock time frames, Eastern Standard Time, of course.
Oh wow, sir! I went to bed early last night and I didn't realize that the Wild beat the Oilers.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna look and see what. Okay, so he got the most or second most minutes after Faber for Brodeen, and he got power play 2 time.
Okay, so we're now
And he got a
debating
goal,
out
too.
there for who's listening. I think Ghost is a consensus sit and a Bangers Cats, unless you're chasing like a mean point
Points,
deficit
power play
or
points.
power play points. We just haven't decided on who the second sit is yet at this point.
I almost think it's Wallman. I think
there-
Myers was
I-
a little bit more for
You
the
guys are
Bangers.
You guys are selling me on it because the 12 o'clock game against the low volume shooting team, that game could end up being like 4-2 Red Wings, right? Or the other swing 4-2 St. Louis. And if you look at the last 3 or 4 games from St. Louis, other than that hat trick game from Buchnevich, most of the time the shots are so spread out on that team. So your category coverage there, and Wallman's not much of a hitter, and Ghost doesn't do anything. So if you're sitting Wallman, you want him, if you're starting Wallman, you want him against a high volume shooting team, and St. Louis is not that, right? So blocks are going to be hard to come by from a Wallman perspective.
Right. All right. Let's see what else we got here. That's just me. So we'll go to start bench and start way up here. All right. Options 2, 12 team head-to-head points. Who to start, Buchnevich or Horvat? I went Horvat because he counts face-offs. And his other categories. League. Yeah. So for me, Horvat, that's what gives Horvat the edge.
So Horvat's at home against the Lightning at 2 o'clock.
Whose defense is a little leaky, so.
And Buchnevich is at home, is away to the Red Wings. And
honestly, the Red Wings are starting Lyon today, so we know what that means.
I'm gonna lean towards Horvat because it's a face-off league, and I also like their matchup better. Sorry, Alan. I know it's Tampa.
Oh no, that's what I admittedly said is like, we're a little leaky. Like, we'll let some goals in.
And I know the three of us agree. We don't particularly endorse chasing points with Buchnevich coming off a hat trick. He really hadn't done anything for like 6 games before that, and he's a streaky guy to begin with. So you never really know what you're going to get from that St. Louis Blues mirage of offensive output versus completely flat and dead.
All right. So next one, start Markstrom against the Oilers.
Oilers coming off a loss, playing the second of a back-to-back. I don't like it. I don't like it.
No.
And it's at home for the Oils, and Skinner will be in net. I guess the only favorable thing is Calgary's rested and the Oils are not. But the Oils coming off a loss at home, I don't like it. I don't like it, boys.
I mean, the question more than anything is he gonna start? Like, he's played.
Oh, and that's the thing is, do we know he's starting for sure?
Oh my God, maybe he is.
You almost have to against the Oilers. Before. That's where you toed out your 1A.
Yeah, I think he has to start that game. You're not going to start Wolf or Vladar in that game. I think Wolf has even been sent down. So,
I mean, it also depends if he's doing a Cats league with percentages or if he's doing a points league with just volume.
If it's volume, you maybe consider starting him. That's a good point, Jay. If it's statistical categories like goals against and save percentage, I wouldn't do it with the Oils coming off a loss and then playing at home and playing their top starter with Skinner in net.
I mean, the other part though is it was covered in I think a subreddit post before, but why does it feel worse to bench points as opposed to, like your starting guys underperforming? And so that's a risk, right? Like Markstrom a couple years back was, like the record holder by far for number of shutouts, right? I know it's different coach, different setup, different system, different players and everything, but I mean, if you're okay with the idea that somehow Markstrom like stonewalls the Oilers tonight and goalies are voodoo, that is a possibility, you know, bench. But truthfully, like it's a league with pretty high parity. Like generally, I'd say if your goalies start them, but
Does the Flames coming off a 3-2 overtime win against the Boston at home mean anything? That was 2 days ago. That was on when Thursday, right? Thursday night. I don't know if that means anything, but Markstrom was in. At least the Flames are playing competitive hockey at this point.
and he made great saves in that overtime, like multiple times. Boston
Look,
could
I
very
think if we don't have context here, if you need starts to fill your your league's quota of starts, I think the obvious answer is yes, you have to start him. But if you have a viable option and you're carrying 2 or 3 goalies and you have another option here, yeah, I personally wouldn't start him because I have another goalie question from Twitter after we have a consensus on this
okay.
one. So
Well, I can't share my screen for that one, but
I will just read it out loud. And it's actually interesting that a listener asked this because it's a decision that I'm looking at as well. And it's Samsonov against who's the Leafs tonight, Jay?
couldn't tell you.
God. Samsonov against the Colorado in Colorado.
oh, that's right.
And or Decord at home against the Wild, and against Marc-Andre Fleury, not Gustafsson, because Gustafsson started last night. Again, another interesting one because it's similar to the Markstrom one. You're getting Minnesota traveling on the second night of a back-to-back. Seattle's at home, but we all know Seattle's kind of very inconsistent from an offensive standpoint. And Minnesota is definitely heated up as of late. Everybody knows what the Maple Leafs have been doing the last 2 weeks, but it is Colorado in Colorado. I would expect Georgiev to play, not the rookie, even though the rookie looked pretty good in his last game. What do you guys think of that question?
I'm leaning Decord against a tired Minnesota team.
Yeah, I see everybody nodding their head. I'm going to agree with that. That's where I was leaning in some of my own start decisions, because I think we've talked about this on the show, and we've all kind of agreed that you probably always want to look for the goalie starts, especially if it's the 1A guy that's at home, and if it's the second night of a back-to-back for the team that's coming in, that's also a check mark in the positive direction for that goaltender. Samsonov in Colorado, Nathan McKinnon, I don't like it. Even if the Leafs do win, you might be getting a win there, but
It's like a 5-4, 6-5 game.
Is it a 6-5 game? Is it a 5-4 game? I don't want any part of that from a goalie standpoint. So yeah, I think for the listener that submitted that question, which their name was, because we always want to give those shout outs. We got Brian. No, what's his name here? It's Monty King 20 who submitted that question from Twitter/X. So thank you for that question, and it helped me determine a couple of where I have Samsonov and Decord in a couple of places. Did we come to a consensus on the start Markstrom for Mike R?
I'm leaning no.
Okay, so
I would say yes, but yeah, dude.
All right, Jay, you're outvoted. So Mike R, bench Markstrom, and then you can come back and tell us.
I mean, in a vacuum, no. But like to Jay's point, if you just need the volume, sure. But if it's like a rate stat league, probably not.
Yeah, like the only way I would say definitely bench someone is if I think there's a high chance they're going to get chased halfway through the first period. So I don't really see that option, but it could happen. So if you think it's very likely they would get chased midway through the first, bench him.
All right, what we
There
got
we go.
next?
Next one, Bangers Point, start one. Zook versus Seattle or Nyquist versus San Jose. My gut first reaction was Nyquist versus San Jose.
Same.
Is
I
he
don't know,
still
I don't
off
know.
power play one though? Because he has
Ooh.
been for a little bit. And I saw a little bit of a dip in his time on ice over the last couple of weeks. That kind of worries me for Nyquist. Like, he's still up on the top line with Ryan O'Rebirth and Philip Forsberg. Daily Faceoff says he's back on the top power play as of this morning. So yeah,
It looks like he's getting the minutes that would indicate power play one. So
the only thing that I
there we go. So last game he was back up. Yeah, got half the power play time.
Yeah, I think that's an easy one for the boys here. I think it's Nyquist just based on deployment. I know the Minnesota is running hot. Zook's also on power play one and line one, but coming off the back-to-back, they're probably coming off a super high, beating the Oilers last night. Now they're traveling to Seattle. We go Nyquist consensus, I think, right?
Yeah. So from Twiz, options 3, bench 1, goalies, it looks like. Thinking Binnington because Detroit is the best opponent of the 3. It's between Saros, Decord, and Binnington.
Saros,
dude, I don't know. Binnington, who did he just shut out? The Isles.
Saros just came off a 4-1 win against LA as well.
Yeah.
When was that, Jay? Thursday or Wednesday?
Thursday.
So yeah, rested. I think
Maybe
Decord. I think
Binnington.
Decord for sure. So I think it's between
Binnington and Saros to bench.
Yeah,
I think the
Binnington and
sucky part
Saros.
is one of Saros, Binnington. I'd say you start Decord either way, but one of Saros or Binnington, like they hold the chance of the
shutout.
4-goal first period or the shutout, and just be okay with seeing Binnington carry a 30 save, 30 saves going into the third period, that sort of deal, and if you're okay with that, yeah.
Well, it looks like he's a points league, so it's who's going to get the volume.
Detroit's coming off that monster 2-1 win against
against
Avs in Colorado.
But it's also only a 2-1 win, which means even if you carried a goalie that just had, a ton of saves and only had 2 goals against, that's
Jay,
not bad.
You've rode the Saros wave in the listener league, so I'm gonna let you have the final say here. What are you doing with this decision?
I think against San Jose, you have to start him. Just like with what we know, you have to start him. My only thing would be if you're like both the Preds and Seattle announced their starters extremely late, and I think the odds are both of them do start.
That's just the other question. That is Saros 100% getting this start? You would assume so. Yeah, you would assume so. But to your point,
there's never any harm in locking in a start early. There's never harm in locking in a start.
I think it's a little different perspective in terms of not chasing categories in your early games with skaters versus the time dispersion between the early games and the late games if you don't have confirmed starters, right? Like it looks like San Jose's already confirmed their starter.
Kakkonen, I think today.
Yeah, Kakkonen's already in there. But to your point, Jay, Preds usually announce late, so you're probably not going to find out till like 3-4 o'clock, and the Detroit St. Louis game is going to be over. Again, it's
with the information we have right now, I'd say I'd lean with Twiz and say sit Binnington. With the information we have right now.
Well, we have our first live question here.
Oh, nice.
From Sony. Love your products. Big PlayStation fan. Hey guys, new follower. Would you recommend keeping Anthony Cirelli for next week as he is still power play 1? And do we hold Lehkonen? What's Tampa's schedule next week?
I think they only have 3 games all on heavy.
Traditional, heavy night. I would say
Is
If
he
you get
still
all 3 starts,
is he still on PP1, Alan? Because I thought I saw Nick Paul getting some time there again
let me check
in their last game.
most recent
I
game.
would say generally holding a player for the next week really just depends on whether or not you have the ads to change. And if you don't have the ads to change, what games would they play and would they add? Just look at your next week and see if he fits into any lineups. Most of the time, even if they fit into every single lineup, a player of, and I'm speaking generally, let's say for a 12 teamer, pretty standard, either cats or points league, a player of Cirelli's caliber, because he doesn't do enough peripherally and doesn't score enough consistently and thus play the minutes needed for both of those categories to upswing, I wouldn't advise anyone in a general league to keep
Yeah.
Cirelli and hold. But
Yeah, it looks like their last game, Sorelli was getting top unit time. Paul was seeing power play too. I think it all goes to look at next week's schedule, see if you can fit in a center only, because that's like we always talk hammer. That's the deepest position. You probably have guys I'd say play over Sorelli.
Yeah, that we talked about this in the last show recording, right? When we saw this report of Cirelli getting top power play time. And I would agree, like his lack of flexibility because he's a center spot. And to Jay's point, remember, what did we call him? Philip Deneau light.
Yeah.
So his offensive prowess is lesser than Philip Deneau. And he's usually a shutdown center type role. I get it. It's the top power play in the league. You want to consider that, but it depends on, like Alan said, how many center spots do you have? How many utility spots do you have? And is there another value add for you next week on the off nights in Edmonton and or
I think Washington
or Washington, where you can add one of those guys and get probably 3 games out of those guys versus potentially having to have a start sit decision with Cirelli.
The only caveat there is I looked at the last box score too, and he has a ton of face-off wins. So
oh yeah,
if somehow this is a face-off league, Sony, then maybe I'd consider. But again, the schedule doesn't look that great. And further, when you're thinking about holding and keeping them onwards, like you want to look like, a little bit further too. And then Tampa has that, 2 game setup to end off the most people's fantasy regular seasons, right? So even if you were to hold him through next week, which doesn't have any off nights and is just a normal 3-game setup, they're playing 2 games the weeks afterwards, right? So it's not exactly a high value hold, truthfully told, for Cirelli.
I'm going to say for Sony, no, because I would imagine there's going to be other value adds for next week, especially given the off night opportunity that we covered in the week 20 preview. Not beyond Edmonton and Washington. There's what I think 4 or 5 teams that have the 2 off night schedule. So take a look at that and grab somebody that has, I would imagine, top 6 deployment and probably power play 1 opportunity there. As for
Lehkonen,
yeah. Well, I was gonna say Lehkonen's still getting
power play 1.
Power play 1. I don't understand why he's when he's bouncing between the top line and the third line at even strength, he's still getting over 18 minutes time on ice. My only concern for Lehkonen, and this is something you covered a couple of weeks ago, Alan, is when a guy comes back from a serious injury and he's not doing quote unquote normal things, his shots on goal rate is very, very inconsistent, and over the last 4 games has been very low. It's only been like 1 shot, 2 shots on goal. That's a little bit of a concern for me, but he looks like he's gotten the dual eligibility in most Yahoo formats.
Really?
I think you hold on him for now just because of who's around him and who's on that power play, and he's still getting that top 6 minutes. But it's something to monitor if those shots on goal rate doesn't come up, because that's going to limit his point ceiling in just from the overall observation of his last 5 games.
Well, the thing with the Colorado Avalanche too is they're very top heavy, right? You look even at a guy like Jonathan Drouin, who's, we we've expressed our taxi squad thoughts toward him. The guy's still getting 10 more shifts than the line 2 guys. So if you think
Do
from
we
that
have to talk
perspective,
about Jonathan?
Yeah,
Drouin?
no, can we? Yeah, let's go back to the Discord.
I think
Because-
I think the consensus for Sony is you hold on Lehkonen because of the deployment. You hope that he gets consistent time on that top line with McKinnon, which he's not getting right now at even strength, but he still has the top power play unit. So yes, you hold because Andy has more flexibility than Cirelli anyways. So you hold there, find another streaming option than Cirelli next week, Sony. And thank you for the question in a live fashion.
Yeah. So next one, options. Well, 3 options in a head-to-head points league. Pretty heavy emphasis on goals. Bench 1. Timmy Stu versus Vegas.
This is a
Svetch
tough
versus
one.
Dallas. Boldy versus Seattle. Now, Jay and I were looking at this one before we got on. Boldy had a pretty good night last night. I
He's
think
on fire right now.
he ride the
He
hot
is
hand.
on fire right now. I think as much as we said earlier, don't chase points. Buchnevich is not on fire. I'm just doing a comparison. Buchnevich has 1 hat trick, which is the high scoring opportunity but he hasn't done much in the last 2 weeks. Boldy, I actually just saw something on Boldy. I'll see if I can find it while you guys are discussing this. His February is just ridiculous in terms of how hot he is right now. He had 7 shots on goal last night, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So his shots on goal rate is, is consistently high, at least in this stretch run.
So my argument for playing Stu was Vegas has been a little leaky lately on goals. I think we pointed out like Hayden Hills looked human. I think Logan Thompson too has been iffy. Which seems weird to say bench Svetch, but he would be the odd man out in that case.
The Brindamore blender, you never know what's going to happen with time on ice in that game. They are at home against Dallas. I did see that Kochekov is getting that start that was announced. Stützle in Vegas? No, Stützle at home. Looks like Aiden Hill's projected to get that start, but I'd be surprised because he just got blasted and pulled. Yeah,
so I guess
I'm going
way to-
Boldy, Stützle here, benching Svetch.
One thing to think as well is, so we like to imagine all these guys getting, top seal, like sniping all that stuff. So let's say if they were to score a bunch of goals and a bunch of assists, which player, we'll call that the ceiling. Which player do we think is the highest ceiling of all these players?
Well, I had found the tweet here on Matt Boldy's last 8 games: 6 goals, 13 points, 36 shots on goal, 70 shot attempts. He's now increased his point pace to 75 point pace and 36 goal pace during that time period. So I'm definitely riding Boldy regardless of the back-to-back situation. You never know what you're going to get from a Seattle perspective defensively, even goaltending wise. So I'm definitely rolling Boldy there. It's between Svetch and Stützle, and I know everybody has their opinion on Stützle, but even Stützle has started to show, signs of life, even from a goaltending or from a goal scoring standpoint. He has 3 goals in his last 4 games. He has 6 points in his last 4. In those 4 games, he has 7 shots on goal and 9 hits. So he's doing the thing and starting to look a little bit more alive. What about Svetch in his last 5?
The big one is that, so I think it's functionally a ceiling question versus a floor question, and I think Boldy, I can see an argument for him having the highest ceiling of them all, but I think the safest floor is probably Svetch, because if you look at Svetch's last games, even in the games where he plays very few minutes, he still hits, he blocks, and he does peripherally. So that's the only one.
Throwing that out. I'm just throwing that out there. Svetch's last 5, even his last 7, his shots on goal rate have been putrid. In his last 7 games, he only has 7 shots on goal. So he's averaging 1 shot a game. He has 3 points in that time. Yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree with you, Jay. I know there's a safer
24 hits
floor.
in those games, though.
Yeah, I know he's hitting, but to Alan's point, there's more favorable scoring for DeRolo for goals and assists and shots on goal. I don't even see points for hits. Is there no plus minus?
I guess not.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
there's
there
not a
isn't
single-
any.
Okay,
there isn't
that's
any
easy
points
then.
for hits. Yeah,
No, yeah, Svech
yeah.
is-
So
Svech is
Boldy
the
and
odd man out.
Stutzla, I think, is the answer for. Is it DeRolo or D-roll?
Dralo.
Dralo. All right. Well, I hope that helps, Dralo. Stutz and Boldy is your answer there.
And then Rezark, who to bench? Another goalie question. We love those. Saros versus the Sharks.
They're my favorite. They're my
Chesky
absolute
versus
favorite.
Flyers, and Ottinger versus Carolina. I think Ottinger. I feel like of
How
any
the
of those
hell
opponents,
did he get all three of these goals?
Yeah, good lord,
the
you were
heck?
stacked in
we
goal,
probably bought
man.
low in Shesterkin,
Yeah.
So
maybe,
Shesty's away to the Flyers.
but he's on
been
fuego
on
right now.
fire though, playing so well. So yeah, I think you play Shvesty. They're still arguably the best team, one of the best teams in the NHL, if not still the best team in the East.
And Ottinger is a good goalie, but I think Carolina of those opponents is the one most
But
likely
again,
to throw
just-
3-4 at you.
My only concern is Jay's concern. You have a time discrepancy here. And we don't 100% know if Saros is getting that start. Yes, we want to assume he is, and you want to start any goalie against the Sharks. I guess you do, yeah, but like really, like to Jay's point, you're picking from a bucket full of riches here.
Yeah, I'd say assuming all three of those get the start, because again, they could
You
start
could
linking in
probably
against the
choose
Sharks.
wrong, and you'd still do very well.
If it's a volume scoring system, you're not going to get a lot of shots on goal against Ottinger. Both defensively sound teams, both do a whole lot of blocking in front of their goalies, right?
Oh, geez, Dallas has lost 4 straight. Oh, wow.
Definitely Shesterkin. I don't know. I think you wait and see if Saros plays, and you
Yeah.
bench Ottinger,
Because then that makes it easy unless you want to run out and pick up Lankinen.
yeah,
Yeah, probably bench Ottinger.
especially with a 4-game losing streak. Like Dallas is kind of in that 4-game losing streak. They haven't been scoring a whole lot either, so they're not even giving Ottinger a whole lot of support offensively. So yeah, I'm going Saros and Shesterkin.
Then now Gillian 23. Who do head-to-head points? Okay. Who do I sit and start tonight? Giroux or Tarasenko versus Vegas, or O'Reilly versus the Sharks? I think we sit Tarasenko.
Yeah, I agree. Let's just make sure.
I know, like that's what I'm not sure, like what the vote is for. It's like, is it a vote to start them or a vote to sit them?
You're definitely not sitting O'Reilly, so it's either Giroux or Tarasenko.
I think you're sitting Tarasenko. If it's one sit, it's Tarasenko, because the other two are top power play. O'Reilly's getting over 20 minutes time on ice, and Giroux, he's in and around 16 to 19 minutes time on ice, and him and Stutzla have been heating up. So it's definitely Tarasenko if it's one sit decision. And Ottawa's at home, and we all know what the Sharks are, right?
What? The Sharks are a hockey team.
Yeah, but would it surprise anybody if Nashville puts up 6? Really? Like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not going to surprise anybody there.
Well, man, that does it. Starter bench. We don't have anyone else. No live questions. I guess we'll go to ad drop.
Let's check out the ad drop section. I like it.
All right, we'll start with whatever today's is as soon as I get to the bottom. Today, there we go.
Ooh,
Swizz cheese.
nice. I like that Twitter handle, Swizz Cheese.
Head-to-head
Cheese.
Cats. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna make a stupid joke. Cheese from old school.
Chip and Dale.
All right. So what are we doing here? We're doing
12 team head-to-head Cats redraft, goals, assists, plus minus, barf, power play, pims, shots, hits, blocks. So all the categories.
if anybody
Add
still has
to-
plus minus in a league, like please, for the love of God, talk to your GM going into next year and get that category replaced or moved.
Yeah, my wife has that in like her women's
awful.
league she plays, and I'm like punt plus minus.
I have
No,
it. I have
don't
it in
worry
my.
about it.
I have it in my work league, and it's just infuriating. You can have a guy have like 2 points in a night, but still be like -3 in a high scoring game, and he only scores like 1.5 points total. Like it just completely skews it. Just get that category out of your leagues. People.
And if you do have it, punt it. Really, don't. It discourages good players on bad teams.
Is this adding 2 for tonight, or is this adding 2?
I think in general.
Okay, adding.
And
2
again,
is-
it's just context, man. You can only fit so much context in here. Is Dylan Strome to me, like if your playoffs are weeks 23 to 25,
yeah.
he's someone you should add. Lawson Krause, he does we just discussed it for next week's show preview. He does provide you some hits. Ehlers, the best player on the Jets. I mean, he'll get you the points and the shots.
But his time on, like, yeah, he scored twice last night, and then I was like, oh, this is exciting. Like, he still only had like just over 16 minutes time on ice. Like, imagine what that guy could do if somebody gave him top 6 minutes. Like, what? Why? Like,
that's where we just have to throw our hands up and say, like, man, these coaches and management must see something that we just don't, because it makes no sense.
Like, okay, maybe he's not the most sound defensive player, but like he obviously is extremely offensively skilled, but you won't give him the time on ice. Like, yeah, I think Dylan Strome is for sure the ad. The other guys, like, it's tough because it's categories and none of them have power play 1. All of them are inconsistent. Like Krause,
I'd say
hits,
Lafreniere,
blocks, right?
Lafreniere could be in an interesting situation because was Panarin the guy that was out or day to day?
Wheeler is out probably for the rest of the season. Like his career may be over, is what I'm hearing.
But that doesn't change that Lafreniere doesn't have power play 1, and he's never gonna get it because.
And I would rather have Ehlers over Laff.
Yeah, if you need hits and blocks, Swiss cheese, it's Krause and Dylan Strome. But I know Jay's probably going to say this on Krause. You hold him short term and see what he does, because he has been extremely slow scoring wise over the last month. I think he's only scored twice in the last month, but he does have hits and blocks coverage. If you need points, I agree with Alan, Dylan Strome, and Nikolai Ehlers. But you have to be mindful of Ehlers' deployment. It's also going to be inconsistent because he doesn't get top 6 minutes in terms of like 17, 18, 19 minutes time on ice. So yes, he can do, maybe Jay's going to say this, but his offensive ceiling is really high. But I think it might even be pressured or lower because of the lack of time on ice.
I mean, I think you probably add Strome if you could fit in a center for the early week 20, and then roll with whomever afterwards.
And Candor, Points League, Saturday, Sunday streamer, Novak or Perron?
I'm assuming this is an extremely deep league. And I'm going to go with Perron because I believe he still has
power play 1.
Or
he did get significant time where he can do his thing.
Yeah. But he, at even strength, he is on line 3, which is not the greatest, but he still has power play 1. Novak had a little bit of a run there when Nyquist got bumped off power play 1. But Novak doesn't really do anything other than, the sprinkle of points. Like, he's definitely not having the season he had last year, coming off that injury, and he's not. And the scissor man has taken hold of line 2 center, not Novak this year.
So he's line 3. But like, yeah, even though Nashville plays the Sharks and the Ducks this weekend, we're still thinking Perron.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and then because the Red Wings play St. Louis today, and then Chicago tomorrow. So good up. They both have good opportunities to get you some points this weekend.
I think you're just going to get a little bit of time on ice bump as well, and the power play 1 deployment with Perron.
All right. So Ruckus, drop 1 to create a stream spot for tomorrow in a points bangers league. Faber, Kopitar, or Slavkovsky. Shit.
I'm leaning Slavkovsky.
Hey, Slavkovsky, I know he's had 2 rough games.
No.
He's had 2 tough games, but he still has that big deployment. He's still getting monster time on ice with Caulfield and Suzuki. I think I know where Alan's going with this one. I know he's going to say Faber. Alan's still hurt by Faber's free skate in that 17 goal output game against Vancouver.
But
Kopitar? Is that where you're going?
I'm almost leaning.
Is Slavkovsky the beneficiary of Monahan leaving?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
by far, 100%.
That's tough. I mean, for me, it's between Faber and Kopitar because Kopitar's center only. If you drop him and someone picks him up, you could probably find another center that's going to give you just as good production, if not maybe a little better at that moment. Shit.
Yeah, I would say Kopitar. I'm gonna go that way too.
I think that's what's pushing me to Kopitar because defensemen, especially this late in the season, that get power play 1 time,
they're tough to find.
to find.
I think it's got to be Slavkovsky. Like I'm looking at the schedule in the coming week. Like I don't want both LA and the Wild play 4 games. Like I'm just gonna drop Slavkovsky, and then they're only playing on heavy nights too. So I wait it out.
Well, he's worried about tomorrow. I think he's trying to win, just get through this week, and then figure it out from there.
Yeah, I think you hold Slavkovsky for tomorrow, for sure.
But he's drop 1 to create a stream spot, right?
Yeah, right. He wants to stream somebody else for tomorrow, I would imagine, in tomorrow's matchup.
So then if he's dropping it, then dropping Slavkovsky for with fewer games next week means that he has a higher chance of getting him back because he's not likely to be added up.
But I feel like at the moment, though, if you drop Slavkovsky, someone's going to pick him up.
And Slavkovsky plays tomorrow, right? So you'd be losing a games played in your matchup this week, right?
None of those teams play tomorrow.
Oh, okay. So he plays tonight. So you might not even fit him in your lineup. I'm just
especially a center.
Kopitar hasn't been bad. His shots on goal rate are putrid, but he has what does he have? 4 points in his last 5, 2 goals, 2 assists. He's still getting around 18 and a half minutes time on ice on average. Yeah, maybe Jay, you're selling me on this because of the crappy schedule next week. Maybe Slavkovsky, even though I like the kid. It's
not even that he's not it's not that Slavkovsky sucks. No, that's not the point. But it's more the chance of you not fitting him into a schedule is higher than the other guys. So I would way rather have a putrid semi game from Faber and Kopitar than an amazing game for Slavkovsky that I probably wouldn't have started compared to another stud I'd have to bench.
Okay, so do we have a consensus here? Alan's going Kopitar.
I am going Kopitar.
I'm gonna stick with what I said too. I'm gonna go with Kopitar too. I'm not gonna be flaky. I'm gonna go with Kopitar too. Because even if you don't hold on Slavkovsky, me personally, I would hold on Slavkovsky in a bangers league. He hits and he's definitely got some point upside. He's had 2 ugly games. It looks like he could potentially get dual eligibility in most formats soon. Which also helps in his flexibility moving forward because he is on the right wing of that line, even though he's left wing primarily in most formats right now. So that just gives him an extra value bonus moving forward. And then you can't drop Faber, even though he's had a couple of slow games just based on his deployment alone.
But last one from Prangley, usually run 0G. Just traded away Skinner. I'm assuming Stuart Skinner at the league deadline, running 4 goalies right now. Kochekov, Lyon, UPL, and Riddick. Is Riddick the drop?
Yes. Oh, yeah. You're running 4 goalies unless you have scoring like the listener league. Don't ever run 4 goalies.
I still think you should just dropped Riddick and kept running with Kochekov, Lyon, UPL, and Skinner.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Yeah, I
well,
don't
we
know
we don't know what he got for Skinner.
That's
so
true.
Yeah, I
who
was like, what
knows
did you
he
get for
got.
him? But
Just like,
yeah, damn.
again, actually, I think in both playoff formats, like Edmonton has one of the nicer schedules. So
Yeah.
I don't know if trading Skinner was the best move unless you got a badass. Oh, he's typing. Unless you got a badass like forward or defenseman back for it.
That's just don't carry four
Yeah,
goalies. Riddick, punt him into the sun. It looks like they're rolling 50-50 right now with Talbot and Riddick too. The Kings are still trying to figure out what the hell happened to them coming out of the Christmas break. They've been very inconsistent. They're juggling lines. Riddick is see ya. Get out of here.
Right.
Yeah, if he's still in the trading mood too.
There we go. Oh, so he's watching. All right.
Trade
Yeah, traded
picks.
picks for next year. Never
Yeah.
hold goalies. Huge wins for W's. Well, that's why again, Stewart's going to get you W's. I don't know. Yeah,
One of the-
I
The
still
other
think
one
Riddick.
is-
Yeah, Riddick's the drop there for sure.
Kochekov.
The other one is if he's
if
still
we knew that-
trading.
Oh.
If he's still trading, like does he, or I don't know if the league deadline's already passed, but
Yeah,
can he-
yeah.
is
I'm
is it,
assuming
if it's still open, is it worth trading Kochekov too? Because I don't know
sell
what
high
the
on
situation.
Kochekov because
Yeah, with
we
Anderson.
don't. Anderson could come back tomorrow for all we know.
And you got to hold on Lyon and UPL just because of how good they've been overall.
100%. Yeah.
Overall, and I know you have to be fluid at the goalie position. Me personally, I would never carry four goalies regardless of the scoring, but you got to do what you feel is right. But Riddick's is drop there.
But there we go. Yeah, if he drops Riddick, he's down to 3, which I think is a good solid number.
Agreed. There's 3 trades we could talk about before we sign off with the people, if we wanted to, in the Trade Talk channel. A couple of interesting ones as well.
All right. So, okay. Cats redraft, goals, assists, power play points, shots, hits, blocks. Got offered this, no brainer. You get Tage Thompson and Robo for Kreider and Horvats.
I think you smash. Well,
It depends what position they are in the league. Mainly because Kreider has a not very, very good, but he has a good week 22, and then
he's been absolutely on fire as well recently.
But just in terms of playoff schedule, it's pretty good. So it depends if he needs to win the quarterfinal week or if he gets a bye. But what's Horvat? Like they they have a pretty good schedule too. So I would say this reeks, if I'm looking at this kind of reeks of someone who's trading Thompson and Robertson. They know they're getting lower, potentially not as great equivalent value, but they're trading for the playoff schedule. So it depends how you're going to view it.
You're trading away. Another consideration: you're trading away left wing only, center only. The only dual eligible player in this deal is Thompson. He's center right wing. I think Jay, you were going to say that Thompson and Robertson have the higher ceiling overall.
Yes.
In all honesty, based on current performance, Kreider is having a better season than Robertson overall. He also hits more than Robertson does. The question is Horvat and Thompson. I think Robertson and Kreider are pretty even at this point in the season, with Robertson still having the higher ceiling if he can really get going. The question really is Horvat versus Thompson in my mind for this deal. And we all know how disappointing Thompson's been, but does the dual eligibility swing this deal with the higher goal scoring upside potential with Thompson? I'm just throwing that out there.
And I think Buffalo, if your playoffs are weeks 23 to 25, Buffalo, I think, had one of the better ones, not the best, but kind of like the lower tier.
They have a really good week 24 because they have 2 off nights, which almost no other team has. So it literally stems down to, can you get that bye? Because Buffalo probably games wise is not going to help you that much in week 23. But if you can get a bye for week 23, then you want the 2 off nights for Buffalo in week 24. But at the
I'm
same
going.
time,
Yeah,
I'm going accept
I
because
think
of,
accept.
yeah. I think you're getting dual eligibility in Thompson, higher offensive ceiling in both of them. Yeah, I think you accept.
All right, and then Majin Kev was offered this today. I'm in need of a center. Playoffs start March 18th. Should I take the risk of Eichel coming back?
No.
Actually, the latest report I heard that he is a week, maybe two out. So as long as he doesn't suffer setbacks, he should be back.
Always
According to management.
but always
Wasn't
trading.
Theodore just back and Eichel moved on to
LTIR.
yeah.
Is trading for an injured player ever a good idea? Because you don't know what you're going to get when they come back.
Right. I mean, you get Byfield as a consolation prize, but I don't know if that's worth giving up Keller.
For in terms of ceiling, like Eichel last year and this year, actually last year and this year, Eichel still had like an injury round a bit. But the problem is just there is no real world value for Vegas to put Eichel back this regular season. So if he's at anything bothering them, Vegas is still winning all the way through. The real world value for Eichel does not align with the fantasy value of him playing.
Yeah.
Don't trade for him. If you were trading way earlier, picking him up, there's difference. If now upcoming into week 20, I wouldn't bank on it. Just take Keller's value.
And he says he needs a center. I just realized, like, center's the fucking deepest position. We were just talking about dropping Kopitar. Yeah, there we go.
Go
get
Strome's on the
Strome.
waiver if you need a center. You don't give up Keller for an injured player and a Byfield that, yes, he has looks like a legitimate top 6 player, but I still have questions around Byfield's overall sustainability because of his low shots on goal rate and his inconsistent time on ice. So, and you don't trade for an injured player, especially if their return's not imminent. With a higher end, round 2, round 3, dual eligible winger, basically all scoring runs through him in Arizona, and he's probably going to put up, somewhere between 80 to 87 points. No, it's Keller.
Yeah. And more importantly, too, if Eichel just stays injured, he basically just traded Keller for Byfield, which is don't do that.
No, don't do that. Alan, go to the Taxi Squad hotline.
Oh,
there's another start sick question. I just want to get to that just in case it's about the Wings game that starts in like 2 minutes. Then we can jump back to that trade. Okay, Shiver Me Timbers, our pirate friend. Arr! He is a good, always good for questions. So that a boy.
Hits blocks. So this league emphasis shots and blocks. And he changes. So who's he have on the bench? So it looks like we just have Timmy Stu on the bench.
Okay, so is it Stu or somebody else is the question?
So center, left wing. So we're looking at his centers and left wings.
Well, no, because he's got Boldy, so Boldy can slot into the right. I'd probably drop Terry, and then Boldy goes to the right wing, and then
Terry's been on fire right now, but you're not getting anything peripherally from Terry. If he doesn't score, you ain't getting anything from him.
So what do we think?
So Boldy goes to the right, Terry goes to the bench, and Stu goes to the left wing.
Yeah, I agree with that. You could also do that swap for Marchessault if you really wanted to.
No, Marchessault shoots. Marchessault shoots quite a bit.
Marchessault would shoot in a 3-on-0.
He's just not having the same season that he had last year, right? So he has been quite inconsistent this year. But I know that Vegas has been quite inconsistent. But I agree. Yeah, I think that's the right call. Okay, and then that last little trade, and then I think that's it, boys.
Starter bench trade talk. There we go. 20 team dynasty, keep 5, no restrictions. Minty or Cooley? I don't know. This seems pretty straightforward. Minty. Defensemen, especially power play 1 defensemen, are always going to be less common than centers.
My only question is on this one, and I know we're not dynasty specialists. is because of the defensive depth from a prospect standpoint with Zellweger. They've got a couple other young D-men in that pipeline that are more offensively minded than Minty. Long term, does Minty hold power play 1 QB, or is he just like that strong, even strength penalty killing defenseman that has a little bit of offensive upside moving forward?
As we've seen
because
with the
Cooley,
Ducks,
they're giving Cooley a run with Keller and Schmaltz on that top line recently. And if that holds, or sorry, not Keller and Schmaltz, Keller and Gunther, they've been running that line together recently in Arizona. If that line holds long term, I don't know. I think I lean Cooley on this one, to be honest.
But we've seen Anaheim move off of defensemen and they go on to other places and do really well. Montour, Lindholm, Drysdale most recently. So even if Minty doesn't work out as power play in Anaheim, he could very well long term go to another team and be their QB.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that take. Their depth at defenseman in terms of youth and high end prospects in Anaheim is still quite high, even with the moves they have made in the recent years. So does that make Minty expendable? Could be interesting.
I mean,
no, I'm leaning Minty personally. I just think if Cooley stays center only for his whole career, you can get that production anywhere.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's the position replaceability part, and even if you weren't arguing the position replaceability, like I didn't realize that the point totals for all our rookies this year is kind of, I don't know if it's bad, but Logan Cooley's got 27 points and Minchikov has got 23 points. They're not that far off. And, you know, I would just say you'd expect in terms of like, I guess, improvement and everything. Like, what is Logan Cooley's ceiling? Like, he's kind of, is he capped out? Like with on his current Arizona team, like he's got to displace who? Who's their current center? Oh man, it's blanking right now. It's not Schmaltz, right?
It's Hayton when he's healthy, right?
Hayton, right. He's back. Hayton, but they had a different center all those times when Hayton was out.
McBain was running on the top line,
right?
And Bukestad is there. Right now, Cooley's running top line centerman with Keller and Gunther, and then Bukestad is line 2 with Krause and Michelli, and Hayton's on line 3 with Schmaltz and Kerfoot. So they're kind of spreading out their offensive players. Cooley doesn't have power play 1, but I think he gets it in the future over somebody like Jason Zucker, who might not even be there after the trade deadline. I get it. You guys are voting me with Minty, but I still lean Cooley, especially if he can hold that line 1 spot with Keller and Gunther. Like that's their future right there. And I don't think that we are even remotely in a place where we can see that Cooley's offensive upside has been capped at this point, because he literally started at the bottom getting like 10, 11, 12 minutes time on ice for more than, a quarter of the season. And now he's starting to get leaned into with more responsibility, playing with their more high premium players. Like I think the offensive opportunity for Cooley is far superior than Minchikov's, regardless of if Minchikov holds that power play 1 long-term in Anaheim. Both organizations have question marks in terms of competitiveness and offensive output long term. But I still lean Cooley. You guys outvoted me, so go.
I know, yeah. We can all jump in there and vote however we want, but that's
But
I think that's it, boys. Right? I don't see anything else that's kind of surfaced in.
That's it, and it's after 12.
Yeah, so enjoy the slate of games that have already started with the Red Wings and the St. Louis Blues out there. Listeners, thank you as always for listening and tuning in. We really appreciate your interaction and your feedback, whether it's on the live show or within the Discord. Keep that coming, and I guess we'll see you all real soon with our flagship shows next week. So stay tuned for those, the Week 20 weekend preview and the Week 21 week preview, and then some form of the three of us will be back for another Start Sit live show next Saturday as we continue our Taxi Squad rotation with this show for you. So, boys, Jay, turn off those fares. Let's park the van cab. Let's get the hell out of here. Everybody enjoy the rest of their weekends. Enjoy the games tonight. It's all love. Let's get into it. See you all soon.
Yep. Good luck, everyone.
We'll pick you up later.